1. Hook and problem. You think you're stuck, but you're not. Not really. You're standing still because something inside you refuses to move. In the first
Just
5
a second.
seconds, be honest. You already know what that something is. It's not lack of opportunity, not bad luck, not timing. It's a truth you keep avoiding. Quietly, repeatedly, almost skillfully. And the longer you avoid it, the heavier everything feels, like life itself is resisting you. Before we go deeper, subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers. Because this is not motivation. This is confrontation. Most people spend years trying to fix their lives without ever facing the one thing that would change everything. They read, they plan, they wait, but they never act where it matters most. And that is why nothing changes. Not because they are incapable, but because they are unwilling to face what they already know is true.
Maybe
2.
not.
Modern illusion. You've been taught to believe that progress feels good, that moving forward should feel exciting, clear, even inspiring. But real life rarely works that way. Instead, what feels good is often just distraction dressed as productivity. You scroll, you consume, you plan endlessly, convincing yourself that you're preparing for something greater, while quietly avoiding the one uncomfortable action that actually matters. The modern world rewards this illusion.
I don't want to.
It gives you endless ways to feel engaged without ever being transformed. Validation replaces growth,
5 more.
comfort replaces discipline, and noise replaces clarity. And slowly, without noticing, you begin to measure your life not by truth, but by how little discomfort you experience. This is the trap, because the moment discomfort appears,
They're ahead.
you interpret it as a sign to stop, to rethink, to delay. But in reality, discomfort is often the exact signal that you are approaching something real.
Not ready yet.
Still, the illusion is powerful. It tells you that you need
fine
more
here.
time, more knowledge, more certainty. It whispers that you're not ready yet. And so you wait.
Tomorrow.
Days pass, then months, sometimes years, and everything looks the same. Not because life hasn't offered you a way forward,
Did
but
they
because
see?
that way forward required you to
Did they like
confront
it?
something you chose to avoid. Something simple,
can't
something
think straight.
obvious, something undeniably true.
There's too much of
3.
this.
Internal conflict.
Just too much
There is a
info.
quiet tension you carry, one that doesn't show on the surface but never truly leaves. It follows you in still
Almost
moments, in late nights, in the silence between distractions. You feel it when a thought lingers just a second too long, when a decision waits unmade, when a path is clear but your feet remain
go?
still. You tell yourself you're thinking it through,
Where did the
being
time
careful,
go?
being strategic, but beneath those words, something else is happening. You are negotiating with the truth. Part of you knows exactly what must be done. It's not complex,
I know what it
not
is.
mysterious. It's often painfully simple. A conversation you've been avoiding, a habit you refuse to break, a responsibility you keep postponing.
hiding.
And yet, another part of you resists, creating reasons that sound logical, even wise. You say it's not the right time, that you need more clarity, that things will align later. But deep down, you
Not
recognize the pattern. This isn't patience, it's fear wearing the mask of reason. And the longer this conflict continues, the heavier it becomes. You start to doubt yourself, not because you lack ability, but because you keep betraying your own awareness. Each time you ignore that inner signal, you weaken your trust in it. And slowly, almost invisibly, you divide yourself. One part sees the truth clearly, the other keeps running from it. This is the real weight you carry, not the decision itself, but the constant act of avoiding it. 4. Stoic insight. Oral would not begin with comfort, he would begin with clarity. He would say that the pain you feel is not created by the truth itself, but by your resistance to it.
I'm afraid.
Truth is clean, direct, almost quiet. It does not chase you. It simply waits. What disturbs you is the friction between what you see and what you refuse to accept. In Stoic philosophy, this
is
friction
true?
is the source of suffering. Not events, not circumstances, but the refusal to align with reality as it is. You imagine that facing the truth will break you, that it will demand too much, that it will cost you comfort. identity, or control. But oral would remind you that this fear is an illusion built by avoidance. The longer you delay, the larger it appears, until it feels immovable. Yet the moment you turn toward it, something unexpected happens. The weight shifts. Not because the situation changes instantly, but because you are no longer divided within yourself. The Stoics understood that inner division is weakness, and alignment is strength. When thought and action move together, even difficult paths become bearable. Oral would tell you to stop asking how to feel better, and start asking what is true, right now, without decoration, without excuse, because the truth does not require your comfort, it requires your recognition. And once recognized, it quietly demands action, not emotion, not overthinking, just the next necessary step. 5. Reversal. And then, something shifts, not outside, but within. The moment you stop running, the moment you stop negotiating, the truth you feared begins to lose its weight. It doesn't disappear, it becomes clear. You realize it was never as overwhelming as your mind made it seem. The tension, the anxiety, the constant feeling of being stuck, it was never caused by the situation itself, but by the distance you kept from it. This is the reversal most people never experience, because they never stay long enough to see it. They keep circling the problem, analyzing it, reframing it, distracting themselves from it, but never stepping directly into it. Yet when you do, even slightly, even imperfectly, the illusion begins to collapse. You see that action simplifies what thought complicates. You see that clarity was always available, just waiting on the other side of decision. And more importantly, you feel a quiet return of control, not over the world, but over yourself. That is where freedom begins. Not in changing everything around you, but in ending the internal resistance that kept you frozen. The truth you avoided becomes the ground you stand on. And suddenly, you are no longer stuck. You are simply moving, perhaps slowly, perhaps uncertainly, but honestly. And that honesty creates momentum. The kind that doesn't rely on motivation, but on alignment. 6. Practical application. Start small, but start honestly. Do not search for a dramatic turning point. It rarely comes the way you imagine. Instead, look at your day and ask a single, precise question. What truth am I avoiding right now? Do not generalize. Do not philosophize. Make it specific, concrete, almost uncomfortable in its simplicity. It might be a message you need to send, a task you keep delaying, a boundary you refuse to set, or a habit you know is quietly damaging you. Once you see it, resist the urge to think more about it. The mind will try to pull you back into analysis, into planning, into safer territory. But this is where the practice begins. Act before the excuses gather. Take one step, however small, directly toward that truth. Do it without waiting to feel ready, because readiness is often just another form of delay. Then observe what happens, not externally, but internally. Notice how the tension shifts, how the noise in your mind softens, how a subtle sense of direction begins to return. This is the feedback you learn to trust. Repeat this daily. One truth, one action. No drama, no perfection, just consistency. Over time, something changes. You begin to recognize avoidance faster, almost instinctively. You hesitate less, you negotiate less, and gradually, your life becomes simpler, not easier, but clearer, because you are no longer dividing yourself between what you know and what you do. You are aligning them, step by step, until action becomes a natural extension of awareness. 7. Final impact. And in the end, nothing magical appears, no sudden transformation, no perfect clarity, just a quiet, undeniable shift. You move through your days with less noise, less hesitation, less inner conflict, not because life has become easier, but because you have stopped resisting what is already true. That is the difference. You no longer carry the weight of avoidance, and in its place, there is space to act, to think clearly, to live without constant tension. This is what freedom feels like. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady, grounded, real, and it begins the moment you stop turning away. If this reflection resonated with you, subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers and continue the practice tomorrow.